this computer. Yeah, how's everyone doing? Good evening.
P. Leyland back this week. Good to
P.
see
Leyland
you.
is back. He's got his I don't know. Where would have been? I don't know. He's been we missed him for a few weeks. Yes.
Not building his wall.
On the shade. My mum is under the shade for a few.
Yeah,
under the shade for a few weeks.
Good to see you, JP, Just, John, Keenan, Reza, Michael, Rob, Daniel, Kelvin back again, Sean, Brian, Peter, Barry, Scott, Jason, Carl, Ken, Mike. Good crew tonight.
Yeah, great crew. Some great whiskeys. First Pulteney tasting. It's a distillery that we haven't covered a lot, in the past. So it's great to have this insight. And we got Andrew Milne joined tonight from Sydney. Andrew is the brand manager for Old Pulteney and several of the other whiskey brands from South Australia, which is great to have today. Andrew used to work for the Whisky Exchange before being into Australia recently, and now working for South Trade. And he also have a podcast with kind of podcast, I would say, with our mate Matt and Scotty in Alexandra from in Sydney. Yeah, out of the very resourceful group of Sydney from last year's lockdowns, which worked out really, really great. So how are you, mate?
I'm good. Yeah, life's ticking along. Still enjoying myself from home at the moment in Sydney. So yeah, it's not got too waning yet. It's
well, at least we got whiskey, eh?
Exactly. There's always
could be like this without whiskey.
Yeah.
I
think they call it meetings.
Meeting, yeah, it's called work. For other people, it's called work. For us, this is work, which is not bad.
You mean you guys don't have whiskey at your work meetings?
Yes, it's but it depends. One is we have before the meeting, during the meeting, and after the meeting, which is it's good. So all right, I'm gonna spot ourselves. Should we kick on?
Let's do it. Let's crack into it, and I'm super excited. The distillery we probably haven't delved into as much over all these Casa de Vinos boot camps, but
the most
bloody
northest distillery in mainland Scotland.
second most.
Or probably, I'm not sure with the new distilleries now.
We were the most northerly for many years, and Wolfburn decided to be a mile or two further north than us.
Let's bring them down. Let's burn them. We just throw a match in there. Still the
recording off.
Recording off. No, we love Wolfburn. Oh yeah, great.
So what's the first one we're going for tonight?
Yeah, so the order for tasting tonight is we're gonna do 12, pretty vertical, 12, 15, 18, 25, 83, and the last one is gonna be the La Maison de Whisky Artist Collective number 4, which is a very big sherry cask, big beast of that one. For the people that it's the first tasting, as we always do, keep ideally 6 glasses with you, because we go revisit these whiskeys, and then pretty straightforward. We discuss them all together, and which is great. And if you have any questions to ask us or Andrew, just put in the chat. Owen will be reading all the comments and asking the questions from the audience.
Yep.
Yeah. So let's kick off.
Let's get a little bit in the glass.
Old Pulteney. We pour a little bit on this too, and we have a little enjoying a little nip.
Where have you gone,
Andrew?
Jose? I've lost you, mate.
I'm gone. This is my dodgy.
It's a dodgy cables, brother.
Yeah. Dodgy cables.
You need to buy them not off Wish in front of.
Yeah, Wish you came with the beads. No. Okay.
Sorry, the Casa de Vinos tastings are a podcast format.
Well, let me just try this cable here. We'll put it back on.
Oh.
And there we go. Oh no.
Well, while we put the 10 and figure it,
Turn it off and on again, mate.
Yeah.
Andrew, do you want to tell us a little bit about Old Pulteney?
No, they don't hear us.
Um,
But you hear?
so the distillery itself is,
I think I do.
as you said, one of the most northerly distilleries in Scotland. A very remote of Scotland. I think anyone that that makes it up there, there's definitely a reward for getting there in place. Most people, if you're traveling that way, you fly into Aberdeen or into Inverness, right in the heart of Speyside, and then you'd be driving past many distilleries to get all the way that far north. It's about another 2-hour drive from Inverness, and you'll pass the likes of Glenmorangie, past Dalmore, and many others on your way up just to get to Pulteney. So anyone that makes it there in the first place is absolutely loved, because you've actually dedicated your time just to get that far north in the first place and to come and see us. So we welcome you in with open arms either way. But the distillery itself is a bit fun. So the whole town, Pulteney, it's now called Wick, but it used to be 2 towns. It was Pulteney Town, and then on the other side of the river was Wick. And it was all really about fishing. And that's the whole reason this town came about was the herring fishing really took off in the sort of 1780s and was a huge kind of thing back then. And there was the British Fisheries Society in the sort of early 1800s decided we need to set up a town in Pulteney Town to actually manage all this potential for fishing herring. So it was a brainchild of a guy called Sir William Pulteney. His actual name was Sir William Johnston Pulteney. He wasn't that important or from that bigger a sort of wealth of sort of family, but his wife was a Pulteney, who was a very respected family, and so he actually adopted his wife's name to give himself a bit more sort of credibility and stance in society. And he came to be kind of one of the wealthiest men in Europe. It was rumored that he was said to own about half of Manhattan Island, and in sort of today's term, he'd be worth the equivalent of about 5 billion. So he was a pretty well-to-do bloke, but he passed away just before the town was actually completed, and so the distillery was named in his honor. But there's a land of fishing. It was very much known as the land of silver and gold, and silver being the herring and gold being the whiskey. And it was sort of definitely the kind of crux of that whole place. The herring brought the prosperity, and the whiskey brought the golden nectar and the happiness and the tribulations that then followed over the years.
I can't imagine the tub over there. It smells like fish and whiskey. Amazing. Yeah. Of course, everyone working on the industry. This is this 12-year-old. Is it batch release? It is a Solera. It is
It's a batch of multiple casks, but it's not sort of a living Solera as such. There'll be a set amount of casks that we take each time for each series, and then just batch them together, briefly marry them, just to let the liquid settle, and then bottle. And it's one of the only SKUs in the range, pretty much. There's some travel retail exclusives maybe that differ as well, but it's the only one that we bottle at 40%. So across the portfolio, so Pulteney are owned by a company called Inverhouse. So we have Knockdo Distillery, which is known as Annock, Pulteney, Speyburn, and Balmanac as well, which is mainly used for blending. But there's some IBs that you see. There's some really good signatory and hidden spirits and things that are done Balmanac. But the core range for most of those, so most 12-year-olds from those ranges, will all be at 40%. Everything else is typically 43, 46 and upwards.
This is lovely, John.
Yeah, gorgeous nose, and I mean, I guess you guys preach this sort of the marine malt as part of like the core marketing through a lot of the stuff you do, but it's so prevalent there on the palate straight away for me.
Yeah, and I think it's the one key difference to a lot of other distilleries that maybe also distill on the coast is actually the barrels stay there as well. And so there's one thing having your spirit distilled on the side of the coast, but actually the process is in the aging, and all of our barrels stay there. And you can throw a stone from the warehouse and you'll hit water, and it's very much you're getting that coastal influence through the cask. So that saline sort of salty character runs true through every bit of spirit from Pulteney. But I think part of it, your brain trains yourself to think it's there, and you sort of think it to believe it. But I think it is definitely a strong character that runs through.
It's pretty amazing. It's very Tobermoreish if you compare to something, it's without the fruit of Tobermoreish, it's much more savory, but the palate is amazing. It's just this sort of savory umami kind of ramen broth saltiness, that sort of thick salt.
It's got that decadence.
Yeah, which is lovely. We have someone, Michael Bright was saying that 3 or 6% on top. Yeah, we do. I do agree that sometimes the 40% is more like a commercial decision to keep the price point. This probably this month, I would say Old Pulteney will be one of the most underrated distilleries out there, and the price point of the 12-year-old has not increased much with the increase of excises and everything worldwide and cost of production. So the thing that suffers is pretty much the alcohol percentage, just to pay less excise. And
and it's definitely a global based decision there.
It's also an acquiring product. Like that is where your consumer enters, and it tries to be probably the most middle of the center. The center of the sides it could be.
And I think that the vast majority of people entering into spirits in those sort of early stages would find 43, 46 a bit more challenging. It's it's a rock and hard place always with that ABV conversation. I think the more you get into it, the more you get invested in it. Of course, you want that slightly higher.
We want more alcohol. That's of course. I think there's but sometimes it's not the. No, I would love to see this at 46, 48, 50.
And markets are obviously different. Andy, is it the same 12 for the world, or have you got different patches for different markets?
So we stick to the same ABV for every market.
That's one of the shames of the House of Santori with Lafroig, for example, doing the Lafroig at 40% here and 43 in America, for example. That backs up, and it's actually noticeably different. We just feel that we get the leftovers over here. That it's I would say let's move on to the 15 while you tell us a little bit the composition. Do you know composition of 12?
Yeah, so across the range for everything that we do, about roughly 90% of our production is all matured in ex-bourbon. And it's funny, it's another brand that I work for, Buffalo Trace, but it's actually nothing to do with our affiliation. But there's a strong resonance in the distillery for Buffalo Trace casks. So it's not solely what we use. We do use a mix, but his preference is very much to Buffalo Trace. And then within the mix, we use a very small amount of sherry, really as a kind of a spice, like you would salt and pepper and any spice in cooking. It's used really as a sort of a faint element to just actually bring in an element of character rather than really dominate the whiskey. But having said that, the 15-year-old is quite long matured in sherry. So it starts full composition in bourbon and then married at about 13 and a half years. We then re-rack into sherry.
So the full vatting is vatted and then fully gone into sherry. Wow.
Yeah. So instead of having 15-year-old sherry married with 15-year-old bourbon, we prefer to just start everything out in bourbon first and then move that in.
Beef it up. And that's lovely.
It's one of a 15-year-old is probably my favorite in the range. I often get asked about the historical element of the distillery. So most of you may be aware of the 17-year-old and the 21-year-old. Very different styles of whiskey to these two. And years ago when I was at the Whisky Exchange, I remember the 17 and the 21 didn't really sell. We weren't selling lots of that liquid at all. And allocation was relatively tight as well, but we were selling small quantities. And then the 21-year-old won World Whisky Awards, I believe. And everyone was emailing the account manager for Inverhouse, putting in their order for stock. And most people were saying a large order of 21-year-old, 6 cases, 10 cases, 12 cases. Secunda being Secunda said, large order for Pulteney, 2 pallets, please. He was the only one that received a phone call that morning saying, you've got to be joking me. That's just, that doesn't exist in the country, let alone for you. But it completely threw it onto a springboard and became loved, around the world for it. So, unfortunately, a bit of a rod for our own back. We were then limited by the amount of liquid we had, and just couldn't keep up production, and we didn't have enough stocks laid down to actually maintain the level of demand. So the decision was to change the mix and redo what we're making. So we converted to a 15-year-old and an 18-year-old, but I'd say the 15-year-old is probably most similar to that 17-year-old. A little bit richer. I think there's a bit more sherry influence on there. But it's
amazing the difference between the 12 and the 15 now. The 12 is now all sort of
oily and citrus. I get
citrus is gingerbread, and then you go to this 15 and it's now it's a bit more,
it's robust
beef stock or stock cubes, a bit of Marmite.
And what's sensational about the 15 for me is just the length on it. I don't won't often talk about the length in these sorts of tasting. It's really just the nose and then a little bit of the palate, but the length of this and the iterations on the length of the sherry and perhaps a little bit of that earlier bourbon influence as well. It's a cracking whiskey.
Absolutely awesome. Let's hear what our third leg, Owen, from the coziness of his house.
So I maybe jumping the gun here, but talking a little bit about Pulteney's old history before modern Pulteney. And modern Pulteney, as we know, I guess Andrew started about 1995. And Old Pulteney was part of the Ballantyne's mix, I think, in the 80s. So I'm really excited to get over to this 83 because it's going to be a look back at that old period of Pulteney before 95, before it was purchased. I love, we're going to point out the bottles there, Jose. Pulteney has some of the most unique bottle shapes and modeled after these stunning bulb-shaped weird stills that they have.
I can chuck it up on the screen. I don't normally do slides, but with Pulteney, there's actually just some phenomenal pictures of history that I'd love to share.
You're not allowed to share?
I'm not allowed to share that, am I?
Hang on, let me just Andrew more. There you go. That should be loud now. Yeah, there we go.
We're on.
They're just such a wondrous shape. I don't think anybody in Scotland has anything, or anywhere in the world has anything that unique.
The closest to it is Cragganmore. So Cragganmore is the only other distillery that's got this chopped off top, and it's actually based on old farming distillation. So the old farming stills used to be this style, and the latter years there was preferred for the old traditional, what's now the traditional swan neck. But we try and create quite a heavy sulfured spirit at the start. So although Pulteney is typically kind of considered to be quite light, quite delicate, and oily, it's that oiliness that we're using sulfur to get that rich oily character, and then clean it out in the aging process, as it were.
I think that's an incredibly clever mix of processes, because if it was too heavy and oily, in a typical maturation process, you just go, oh, this is like like eating carbohydrates, too heavy and stodgy. But that heavy spirit combined with the light and saltiness of the ocean, sort of maritime influence, it's created this beautiful, beautiful combination. And having a look at the 12 with that complete, so 12 is all bourbon maturation, and then this has had, I think, was it 3 years sherry seasoning
roughly.
effectively. So that just little bit of like you say, it's like putting salt and pepper over the top of the spirit, just adds that little bit extra complexity, and I think it's that umami to another step. And a lot of people go into the noodles and the ramen broth sort of notes. I think it's definitely spot on.
Shall we move into the 18 now, as my mouth is watering?
Yeah,
And I'm liking, and I must say, this is the first OB, like most of OBs that we've done in a very long time, is it?
it's been a
Except Glendronach and Benriach that we do,
while,
like
yeah.
and this is like delivering really, 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 really well,
Yeah.
which is very exciting.
So we'll pour them out, and we'll spend a lot of time with them at the end. So
These ones don't come in massive quantities to Australia. We do have a little bit of stock on the website, FYI, and we have this code that Owen created. It's SALT, and if you use SALT on checkout, you're gonna get 10% off anything on the website, including all these. We don't normally do, and as I normally say, we don't normally do discounts. We don't like discounts, and my religion doesn't allow me to do it. But just for the tastings, to support all the people that's continuously on the tastings, we just and the discount expires tomorrow midday. So we make it fair that people can wake up sober and then take the decision. They just don't need to do it on the night. But we might have to cut that down. It's my religion also allows me, discount on day of Sabbath, not allowed. That's even like double bad. It's like double bad. 18-year-old Old Pulteney. Oh, darling, this is awesome. That nose.
what a cracking nose.
Nose for days. What do you
It's where it gets really special, I think, at this point. It's I think I see 15-year-old as that sort of casual drinking, any occasion sort of style. Or I think 18, it steps it up to a point where you just stop, and you kind of have to sit on it. You almost have to be at the end of a day. I think sort of approaching this one early is almost confusing to sit with, and it really kind of just mellows out that evening perfectly.
This doesn't smell too much sherry like the 15. It smells more like on a very old style of bourbon, probably even older than 18, maybe, I don't know. And this is fantastic. I like this.
Yeah,
I like.
The sherry bang kicks through on the palate.
Is there any sherry on this?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it is.
Similar again, so about 3 to 5 years.
3 to 5 years, okay. 46%, yeah, that's 6. Yeah, that's now they are delivering quite a lot. And the nose of, let's say, for the nose, it's a bit deceiving. I was expecting with the nose a lot more punch on the palate, and forget the 20 to 46 on it. But it's lovely. This is
super duper savory. A little bit of florals there as well.
Yeah, you lose that kind of fresh fruit, and it gets much more to that kind of candied fruit, sort of chocolate stewed cooked fruits, versus that kind of fresh orange that I feel that 12 and 15 deliver.
Yep. Who should we ask? Our mate Justin.
Yep.
It will be the what does he
In front of
think?
his fire, probably.
In front of his fire outside.
Straight up,
Yeah.
having a vape.
Where is he? I saw him earlier. Is he there? He probably went to look after the
Maybe
kids.
he's going to do something.
He's probably going to do something else.
Go check in with.
Let's get Dave Phillips that he's not eating shredded cheese today,
Not yet.
or not yet.
No, it's cheese strings now, Jose. I was going to wind you up with that.
How are you, man?
I'm great, thanks. It was Yeah, the 18 I think is completely different, isn't it? Joe was just saying that it's interesting how you drink the same spirit from the same distillery and it just changes so much from the 12 to the 15 to the 18.
Yeah.
And we're only halfway through. So it's nice to have that vertical across all those different styles of the one distillery. So you're mixing it up again. So thank you, Jose.
This is it's a distillery that I actually like a lot, and back on the day, this distillery used to always be, I to be honest, I never knew this went into the South Trade portfolio. I always thought this was still with Proximo or Island to Island, what it used to be back then. And I just don't, the salesperson tries to sell me rum every time he comes to my shop, which is very interesting. Or tequila, like I don't want that. I don't need that.
The two things I always used to buy, Jose, was the 217s. So that would be the Pulteney and the Craigellachie. Do you remember?
Yeah.
They used to be they were about the same price, and you buy a couple of bottles, and that would be your staple. So.
And now I'm very glad to see this in the South Trade portfolio because we get back onto it on the Pulteney train.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Good train to be on.
Let's see our mate Daniel made us what he reckons.
Yes, Dan.
Yeah.
Look, that's a real step up, isn't it? That one, it has more of that, I guess they call it the maritime malt, and I'm really getting that salty finish on it, but it's delicious. It's almost peaches and vanilla on the palate. It's glorious. I love that. It's absolutely stunning.
Very savory, huh? Very nice.
It is very savory. Yeah.
It's I can get a little bit of that kind of sesame oil on the palate, but not the sweetness. It's like kind of a, I don't know, it's a sort of very interesting. Actually,
Nose
very
is
more
fantastic too. Nose is amazing.
Who else? You reckon? John Jankowski. What beer are you drinking today with this?
No, I'm taking it easy actually. So I'm drinking a Scottish ale.
Take it easy.
It's only 75%. This one.
No, this one's not too bad. It's sitting at 5.2. No, you know what? This is reminiscent of the whiskey and almond tasting that Andrew done last time as well. And it was the same lineup, and it's just really like I love how this spirit progresses over the years. Like such a difference in between. Like it's got that maritime note, which is a signature thing, which creates that a very savory note. But the sherry influence is just an absolute blessing on this spirit. Like it works so well. Beautiful. Like you said before, Andrew. Like it's candied fruits on this one. Yeah. That's definitely what I get a lot more of on this, and it also goes well with the sea salt caramel chocolate as well. I'll add to the 18. Gorgeous stuff.
I think that was a really good link with Owen talking about Bunna. I think it's I hadn't even considered that before, but certainly the 212s I reckon would be. It's been a little while since I've tried the liquid, but I could definitely see a strong link to certainly the older style Bunnas when they're that little bit more oilier and thicker.
Yeah.
There's a huge similarity between those two styles.
Well, especially in the history as well, Bunna being generally only reachable by sea, and Pulteney having that same relationship. But I see, because we did a Bunna Harbin tasting a couple of weeks ago, and seeing those very low peat, long sherry or sherry finished, I draw some parallels that they use sort of same techniques, but it's funny how that different still shape creates such a different style of malt.
Yeah.
The what I see correlation also is with the 18. Remember the 18 Bunnahabhain was pretty good. Yeah. I would say I would drink this 18 over the 18 Bunnahabhain, but again, very similar. Like it was a really step above.
That's the right.
Like
it just jumped up a lot.
Yep. Especially this is not a space eye, so you're not expecting that big, rich, big mouthfeel that it does have when you certainly go for a whiskey of like Old Pulteney, which is great.
And it's right, as you said, it's an isolated town, and it's they kind of had their own world and life, and so very much the trade was all in fishing. Something like 1,000 boats were coming in and out per day, into the harbour. So you could effectively walk from one side of the harbour to the other without touching water.
Boats. Wow.
Yeah. I think they employed something like 15,000 people in the area, and there was like 650 coopers alone based in the town. There was a great statistic I heard. There's something like 5,000 bottles of whiskey consumed in 2 days. Consumed every week in the 1800s.
Wow.
So it was a heavy drinking and lawless. And I think there's Malcolm Waring, I've got it somewhere here, made a quote. He said they used to fish every night, starting in the evening when the herring came up to the surface. They took stone flagons of whiskey with them and they drank. They would sell their the whole
stone
and it wasn't really whiskey. It was fiery new make. But they would sell their catch every day and get paid every day. Take their money and go to the pub. There was heavy drinking.
Whiskey, yeah, that's what I said. The smell of the pub will be just herring and putney.
That'd be the life.
Yeah, and whiskey and beer, some ale. I don't know what would be the ale back on those days. It's probably safer to drink whiskey than ale.
You could put your herring in your new make at the pub and
dump
then
it,
come back. Then you got a sardine, grab some bread, and
just. My mouth is watering for the 25.
Yeah,
can't wait.
I know. I'm so excited as well. It should be cracking, Jose.
Tell us a little bit before we start with about the 25. This is a very important whiskey for kind of Old Pulteney, and very, very, very tiny bit of stock that comes to us.
Yeah, it's tiny amount of production, and it changes with each batch as well. So it's not necessarily a consistent product in the sense of it's the same product time in, time out. It adjusts and it changes and it tweaks, and the previous versions of this actually had a fair amount of older liquid in it as well. So it wasn't just 25. I think there was a rumor that it kind of went up to about 30 years of age in total. Whereas this one was slightly more on the nose at 25. So it'll be a little bit fresher. I've actually not poured this one out yet, but I suspect it'll be a little bit fresher than the previous version that John, you would have tried. And that was definitely sort of very classic old school whiskey in that sort of, it was musty, it was earthy.
I think at this level of whiskey we expect variation, and we want that variation of excitement of new batch, and and buy maybe a couple bottles just in case the other batch doesn't perform as you expected, but it's still good. But you also have a leftover bottle of the previous batch you might never open because you already bought another 2 of the next batch.
Yeah.
And that's how we all work on our whiskey mind. Whiskies you like ones like this that you got to keep up your sleeve, and this is one that as soon as Owen opened it, it was like, smell this.
Oh wow!
We've just been smelling it every day for the last couple of weeks since it's been opened.
They're nice.
I'm so looking forward to tonight because it's exceptional.
It's like golden syrup with honey and.
Yeah, this is really interesting because there's a lot of variation between these, the previous bottle. So you'll be able to identify. So the new one that we released came out a year ago. Blue box, blue label, whereas the previous one is slightly more kind of slightly burgundy color label on it.
This is blue box.
I'm pretty sure it is.
Yes, it's blue box. We don't know where the box is anyway. Probably Owen made it.
It's somewhere.
It's probably already on the bin because we just finished the bottle. But all right.
There's a great freshness to this.
This is sensational. Also 3 months in sherry? No. 3 years, I mean?
It's probably slightly longer, actually. Off the top of my head, I can't even
22 bourbon and 3 in Oloroso sherry, I think, for this release.
Okay.
But that could possibly be one of the older releases I was seeing the info on. I do think it was this release, but...
This batch is bottled in 2019. is at the back.
Takes a while to get to Australia.
That's lucky sometimes because we work on older batches than so it sometimes works. It's like a double-edged sword. Sometimes this being in the most remote place in the world is sometimes it's good, sometimes not so good. But usually by the time the whiskey arrives to Australia, it's already sold out. Now, since social media dominates the world, it's terrible because you can't get hold of anything because already it's sold on the social channels that this is super limited and super rare, and everything's been depleted before even and allocated before even landed to the port.
Yeah,
but
this is just stunning. This is like if maple syrup was a soda, like the effervescence, like the length to it. And
it smells like cream soda or something like cookies and cream ice cream or
decadent. And I feel as though it's just going to keep developing as well.
Have you know that Oreo, the white bit, Oreo cream?
Yeah.
Oreo cream. Oh, what does our friend Shan thinks? See him contemplative there. You got a ponytail now.
Had to tie it back.
Getting confused for Jesus too much in the street.
Yeah, just sign a few autographs. Jesus,
people,
sign my thong. Oh yeah.
People are always asking me for forgiveness. This one's a cracker. I've full disclosure, I've felt like a bit of a basic bitch with the first few tonight. I've been struggling to really pull anything from them, and I think my nose just isn't in tune with the more maritime whiskies at the moment. Because I've had this before, but my signature call of maple syrup's come out, and I totally agree. It's almost maple syrup with a little bit of funk on the side. It's just stunning. It developed in the glass within the first 30 seconds as well. It started off with lots of light aromatics and like that varnish kind of came through it initially, and now it's just gotten deeper, and cracker. So cracker one to ask me on.
Yeah, it's very, very this 25 is really nice. Let's get someone there that's not Kelvin is there. Kelvin, how are you, man? Long time no say. What do you reckon?
I like it. I'm getting various little bits and pieces of things, not a whole, as in I'm not getting massive, but I agree with the creaming soda, all that sort of stuff.
I find amazing is like the even you taste the 18, you taste the 25, you go back to the 12, and the florals of the 12 still there and they hold up. You know? The 12 is sensational. The nose of the 12 is fantastic. Oh, good.
I think that 12 is definitely the sort of unsung hero, I think, of of the range. And it's funny. I've spoken to a lot of bartenders that have said, it's one that they always sort of go, oh yeah, Pulteney, that was my favorite. That was I absolutely love that. And it's sort of through a mix of availability and stock and whatnot, it's sort of slightly fallen out of memory on a lot of people. But I think it's often find that when you put it back in front of someone, people suddenly go, oh yeah, that's a whiskey I absolutely fell in love with.
Daniel de Corso was saying varnish and cream and a strong bite from the wood. Is that on the 25, Daniel? Yes. Like, I lost him. Where is he? There he is. How are you, man? Still muted. There.
Hey, how are you?
Good, man. How are you?
Yeah, good, man. Yeah, definitely a strong bite from the wood, though. Like a lot of length on it. Really dries the palate out, I think. I don't know. That's how I feel about it.
What is your pick for the time being?
For the time being?
Yep.
They've all got individual qualities, I think. I don't know, like the 25 is definitely standout. But yeah, I mean, even if you go back, I feel like the 18's got an interesting character and the 15. And even if you notice the 12, it's got a bit like, it's got the strong cream scent to it. I find going back there. But yeah.
I like that the 12, you go back to the 12 and still the nose performs.
Yeah.
It's that sort of exactly that. It's that sort of cream. It's strange. You know what smells like? New toy. Like, you know, the packaging, the sounds bad, but it's not. It's actually not bad. It's in a very nice way. That smell of like or kind of balloon. You know, when you blow a balloon, we had that the other day come up. When you blow a balloon, it's that sort of kind of talcum pattern, you know.
Talcum rubber.
Yeah.
Yeah, talcum and rubber. Yeah. I don't care what you do, Jono.
Yeah, no, it's 100% that, and it's funny. Like a lot of these tasting notes, often the like ones that are a little bit more from left of field are the most complimentary.
Yeah.
Like,
but it's actually very. It's also try to put things to memory. You know, like very. And it's also very interesting that they all keep a coherence. Like the whole range keeps a very, very good coherence. So, you know, there's not like there's not like for example, a range like Benriach, which is that one is like the port wood, and the other one is like the sherry wood, and there's another one that is the peated one, and they all like it's a mix of ages and cast finishes, so they are all like eclectically different.
Yeah,
this is a coherence of kind of growing complexity. Saying though, the 18
I like to 18, and there's just like a very dark bit of chocolate straight away on the nose.
It's a little bit more rich than the rest.
Yeah,
I would say. All right, time for the 1983. I've been trying to find a bottling date on these.
the big one.
it's 33 years of age.
When is this? 33 years old.
2017 release, I think, was this one?
Yeah,
2017, yeah.
Yeah,
if that makes it 33. Yeah.
So this comes 83 during the Ballantines period. So Pulteney up during this period was exclusively malt for that blend. So pretty lucky to still have casks of this floating around after so many years. And obviously when they changed hand in 95. So this is a look back 12 years before the distillery became what we see today.
So this got saved from becoming Valentine's.
Pretty much, yeah.
Saved from the sacrificial batting.
I think they've always been quite good at, you know, holding stocks through the decades. You know, and it's the warehousing itself is a really beautiful set of warehouses. So you've got traditional dunnage warehouses and racked warehouses. So there's one large racking warehouse where more of our sort of younger spirit will be based, and then dunnage where we'll keep the older stuff. And there's all sorts of crazy things. I think there's a 1950s Glen Grant, I think it's 40s or 50s Glen Grant barrel that we've refilled. It's relatively new into the distillery, so it's probably been there sort of 10, 12 years at this stage or now. And Malcolm, was the distillery manager, was kind of like, well, it's going to do nothing for the first 15, 20 years. So, you know, this one will just sit in the cask for an exceptionally long period of time. And, you know, there's even back to the, you know, Valentine's Day, it was, you know, it will still, you know, be having stock that it's kind of just hold it and hold it and hold it. And yeah, for what's a small hidden distillery, they've actually done well to hold stock levels through the decades.
The nose is stunning. coconut shavings.
Desiccated coconut.
Yeah. It's the nose is sherry, the palate is sherry, but it's like just moorish and
You can't help but keep going back.
correct.
There's a bit of like exotic fruit there, but just in like not the sort of typical way. It's got such decadence behind it.
A bit rummy on the side, even on the side of like the Merara rum, sort of navy, navy style British navy rum style, continental style, like rich, heavy, Guyana style of.
Yeah, it's got, as you say, it's got that kind of weighty, rich fullness, but there's that kind of. I always sort of get the sort of green skin of a papaya, or that kind of tropical fruit, but still a bit green, which kind of to me also is very reminiscent of rums at the same similar vein.
Yeah. Let's see what Robbie thinks.
Yes.
Yeah, so this is interesting because immediately on the nose, you get that it's sherried, but it doesn't have that like strong raisins pungency that, really big sherried things have. It's not punching you with, hello, I'm sherry and I'm only sherry. Like you're getting, like there's some other sensations coming along under it as well. And an interesting extension from the previous ones where like I was like the other ones were interesting, but I was waiting to get to this one to see how we got here, because like people, for example, on the 15, people were saying, like ramen broth and whatever. And I was getting along those lines. It was like the 2-minute noodle broth. Like it wasn't like a proper ramen broth. It was that real processed, like beef noodle, like Maggi beef noodle broth, where then on the next one, the 18, I was getting, if anyone's cooked with it, more of that like pure MSG taste of like the savoriness was there, but it didn't have like the rest of it. It was just like almost like pure savory as the hint that was happening. But,
Pure MSG taste. That's
like it was like on the palate, I was getting like the long tailed palate. It was reminding me of just like that. If you've ever, like you've taken a pinch of MSG to cook with and then you like lick your finger, it's got like that same sensation, not just like,
I know what I mean. Yeah. I see the umami taste, this salt, the I can nose these for what a shame Dom's not here.
Yes, this might pull the strap out.
Yeah, he said he might join. He has a phone call at 7, so he might join after that. If we kick on, he probably will need a drink after that.
It's really true about the sherry aspect. I think you're saying it. Pulteney has never been heavy on the sherry. It's never been a characteristic. The casks that we're getting are some of the most exceptional casks out of Spain. I always forget the name of the bodega that we're getting it from, but I'm pretty sure it's the same guys that Grand Farkas are using.
Okay.
And it's you're starting off with exceptional casks, which is
González Villas.
No, it's no, I don't remember.
Okay.
But it's used in a way where we're not really kind of looking at that kind of, let's go for big, heavy, thick, treacle, nutty, oily kind of characters. It's there to just enrich and sort of develop the spirit.
What's the extent of production of this 1983? How many bottles? Is a single cask? Is it?
This was bottled before we started distributing the brand. So it was leftover stocks from island to island that we inherited when we took over distribution. So
unreal. This is like, this would be like, I remember I bought like, no, sounds bad. No. I bought quite a bit of 21 when, they were like, they never knew what they had. They were probably, they just did a stock count on the warehouse and handball this to you. Like this is
there was some phenomenal liquid in that changeover. The 1989 Belle Blair was the other gem that we got.
No more of those.
Absolutely stunning whiskey. And by the time that it been sitting in their warehouse for 2-3 years, it represented an amazing price as well. 'cause,
I know.
pricing hadn't changed since when it was released about 4 years prior. So,
But 89 Balblair, it's not an 83 Old Pulteney like this.
of
It's
course,
like,
no, it's very
this
different.
is like, hello, that like yeah, as righty as it is, you know, like saying that 89 Balblair is exceptional whiskey, the price that was ridiculous was, you know, we're talking about like that was actually was like probably 2018 prices.
Yeah.
When they release this. I'm loving this. It keeps giving. Go back to a 25. Kind of kills the nose, but then you leave it and the fruit comes up straight away.
Yeah.
Yeah. And little 12 continues there punching, you know,
It punches
well above his weight. Yeah.
The 18's still giving a bit for me. I'm getting that crushed nuts on it, like cashews and peanuts and that sort of thing. The 18's playing a beautiful little role.
Who do we ask? What do you reckon, John? Keenan?
Yeah, Keenan. What do you reckon?
Keenan, we haven't talked to Keenan in a long time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Hi guys.
Did you move house or your wife sent you're not home anymore? What's it? Is a new office that one or?
No. I've moved house. That's why I've been very quiet. I've been saving a whopping great deposit. But
Did she found out your whiskey stash?
Sorry.
Did she found out your whiskey stash?
Yeah. That's all out in the open.
How do you?
I do have a full whiskey room now, so I'm pretty happy with that.
Proud. You came out.
That's the Australian whiskey.
Wife, I'm a whiskey addict, and I got like 400 bottles lying in the house, hidden. In
got the bruises to prove it.
So what do you reckon about the tasting today and the lineup?
Look, I was particularly excited for the Pulteney tasting because I've always thought that the spirit quality of Pulteney is, for me, one of the best in all of Scotland. I think it's one of really those hidden gems, and I don't think I've had a Pulteney where the actual quality of the spirit hasn't sung through. And I don't know, perhaps, I mean, it's interesting to know a little bit more about the barrel selection and the Buffalo Trace, and you know, the fact that you guys only really sort of light the season towards the end with sherry, and I think that comes through. But for me, the quality of the spirit, it sings through all of these expressions we've tried to date. And I particularly enjoyed the 25. I think it's a phenomenal whiskey. I think the 83 is one I need to spend some more time with, and I think when we finish, I'll sit on that one for half an hour and really get to know it. But the 25 might think of the bunch. But again, that quality is consistent the whole way through.
Yeah, that's correct. And I keep revisiting the 10, and it's sensational. This is Old Pulteney is a whiskey that, you know, we never. It's good now. We always like here, and I think that's gonna be now a staple on Casa de Vinos shelves now.
Absolutely.
The 12-year-old as an entry level savory malt, you know, with that. It's by definition savory should be Old Pulteney.
Which like entry level whiskey, in many respects, it's a hard thing to broach, entry level sort of savory whiskey like this for the way we like to do it. Yeah. There's not a lot of really good options like Old Pulteney, so it's great to have a lot of peaty young entry level whiskies around the same sort of price point. But for the role that it's playing, it's pretty much out there, cat amongst pigeons. So it's going to be one I think we'll hang on to.
Yeah, that's very nice. Owen, you want to ask any questions or anything, or should we? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, so I'm actually, Andrew, do you know if Pulteney's looking to do any full bourbon maturation releases then? We obviously talked about a little bit of sherry at the end, but I'd love to see a 25 in pure bourbon.
Yeah, there's casks there, so it's not out of the realms of possibility. The oldest I've seen is sort of more single cask stuff that they've released in the sort of 14, 15, 17 kind of age range. Once you kind of hit that older age, I've not seen anything really that's not included a bit of sherry. It's not to say that we're not doing it. They're pretty hush-hush on MPD, and anything really coming new that that's happening. We don't generally find out until 6-12 months at the most before it's going to happen. But I think the spirit's got everything to go with it at that age. So there's nothing to stop it from working by any means.
I'd love to try something like an 18 in pure bourbon and the 18 OB with a little bit of sherry side by side. But like Keenan mentioned, the spirit is so fantastic. I'd like to see that core, and maybe even I'd be interested to know if they're doing anything peated, or maybe we're seeing some port casks or anything in the future. Or
we don't peat at the moment. The one that's not in the lineup tonight, Old Pulteney Huddart. So Huddart is the closest that we have to peated as a style, and that's basically what we do is at Knock Do Distillery, we make something called Anok Peat Heart. So mainland peat, quite rich, quite sort of heavily peated for a mainland style, but obviously nothing like your Isla styles of peated whiskey. And once we finish making those that whiskey, we send the casks up to Pulteney, and so it's about an 8-year-old liquid with a sort of 3 to 5 month maturation in those ex-peated whiskey casks. So you get a bit of smoke, you get a bit of ash, but it's subtle enough and gentle enough to work with the spirit. I think if we went full peat, it probably wouldn't work.
Yeah,
it's my gut. I'm always ready to be proved wrong, but I have a feeling that it isn't in the line.
It's a stunning spirit base to have, and I think they've done well to stick to this. Like Jose mentioned, there's a lot of distilleries that sort of maybe are a bit all about the place with their cask types and styles. That Pulteney's created this name for itself as a good quality, consistent. You can go back to it and enjoy it at every vintage and every age. The next question I have, so we're going to go on to this artist bottle, Jose. So we've got a 12 from La Maison de Whisky. Now, the original 12 that we've all been enjoying at 40% is 12 years in bourbon. This 12 has been recast into sherry. So my question here is, was this possibly a La Maison de Whisky experiment, or was this Pulteney trialing doing a 12-year-old with that sherry component like the rest of them? So it was a 9-year with a 3-year finish.
So the relationship with La Maison de Whisky is very strong, and the flexibility that we have at the distillery is we given the right amount of time, we will make things as per requests, and so if the customer is proving themselves is a good valued customer of ours, then we will adapt and change what we make for them. So I suspect that would have been an ask from them, and we would have quite happily facilitated that. There was an Anok release that we did in Denmark, I think, that suddenly blew up because everyone's like, this is delicious, but we just made it for this one market. And it was a heavy sherried, I think it was a 14-year-old Anok, and it was peated as well, I think, and they absolutely loved it, but we weren't making it as a start, so caused a bit of issues there where people were wanting that, but it's just not on the cards for a main release.
I'm in the case of this this Pulteney from La Maison de Whisky Artist Collective, this is signatory vintage stock, so I wouldn't know. Yeah, for this range,
if it's signatory, then Des is probably
recast
himself. Yeah.
The La Maison, probably for someone like Pulteney, they would do their own OB, for something like that. And they had 2 OBs, and they had, I think, a 27 and a 30-year-old 2 years ago on Whiskey Live, and it will be in one of the books I have here at the back, because I remember seeing that at Whiskey Live like 2 years ago, or maybe 3 now. I can't remember. Last year, it's like I don't count. Of course, no one counts that. So when you say 2 years ago, you're probably meaning 3, not 2. This one would be signatory, and they would have been recast by them. And
he's buying spirit at a relatively young age from them, so they'll be a bit buying direct from the distillery, a bit from brokerage. but yeah, Desert 100 will definitely be getting a good chunk of youthful stock from them.
Yeah.
So I suspect that they've made the call to re-rack.
The sherry battery cask, mix of 2 casks. You pass me the connections.
Yeah, 2021.
We how many bottles of this, Owen? You know?
I think just under 1,000 it was.
Yeah, because it's diluted down to 43.
Or yeah, it might be 1,200 then, I think.
Oh, John is here.
2 cask, 1,860 bottles.
Oh,
1,860 bottles.
So two big butts.
2 big butts.
Two very large butts.
Two.
If it's 860 bottles.
Better not be lying.
My cookies, after using this microphone, thanks God, my cookies get all stuffed up. What John was saying, 2 big butts. My Facebook search. Tomorrow the ads are gonna.
Well, yeah.
Anyway, this puts a.
Yeah.
I know. I'm not sure if I know. It's a. I smell the official bottling and the IB, and the freshness is indistinctively the same profile. It's amazing, and the cherry has not really changed a lot. It's become a lot more stocky, but still this 12-year-old is very solid. The OB, very, very, very
super solid. Like obviously a little bit more youthful and perhaps a little bit more of that citrus and citrus note we get more with the younger Pulteneys.
Yeah. And to be honest, I remember this IB like a lot bigger and richer and like, you know, and now after the 83 it's like not really my memory is the same.
Look, it's probably not a senior dram like that.
No, it's
83.
not. Correct.
You know,
it's meant to be a young, you know, which is, you can still see that kind of nose of Putney, sort of ramen stock.
Yeah.
I keep on going back to ramen stock and just
Hungry.
ramen stock. It does. It's like, love that. It's like sort of, you know, mushroom, truffle, beef stock, you know.
It is. It's decadent. It's
decadent.
It's
It's
really
lovely.
good. Roger, what are your thoughts on these Pulteneys, brother?
Beef noodle, says Barry. Yeah, Barry, you're right.
I didn't pick the beef noodle, but I've been trying a few different OPs, so it's good to go through the range. It is strange for you guys to do four OBs out of 6, but it's Old Pulteney, so it had to be done. So
correct.
I'd agree. For me, the 25 is probably my pick, but I'll give the 1983 a little more time.
I'm going back to the 25. I mean, the brightness of the 25 is amazing, but it's like, it doesn't exclude the 83,
no,
but it's like it's hard to pick between both, you know. We like so day and night.
Different whiskies, yeah, vastly different. Brian, what are your thoughts on the Old Pulteney? Are these whiskies something that's perked your interest a little bit, or is it something that you're finding yourself a little bit more into now?
Actually, they had a while ago when we did the nectar taste. Was it the nectar? And there was that 12-year-old Putney in that.
Yeah.
And that was one of those ones, same thing, as a 12-year-old that stood out all night. And it, you know, I forget the rest of the bottle. That was the one I remember from that night the most. So I was kind of excited for this one. The OBs are great, but this 25 for me, it's peach cobbler. I just love it. You know, it's something like a dessert my mom used to make. You get that brown sugar, that syrupy, and it's just baked peaches. I just love it.
John Jankowski has a bottle of the 12. John, is that 46 or 43? What's the ABV on that 12?
Yeah, and the rest. Try 57.5.
Oh, there we go.
That is a belter. This was an absolute belter of a dram.
Can you check in the bottom if that says from the warehouses of Signatory Vintage? No, the bottom label.
Bottom of the, okay.
Yes, it does. Yes.
Yeah.
Leo's just got one there.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, that's
it
a
has
Signatory.
Vintage ship.
So also the nectar is the importer for Inverhouse, but also he's the importer for signatory. So the relationship with the nectar of the daily drums is huge, as well as La Maison de Whisky, which are also, I think, importers of Inverhouse and also importers of signatory. So, you know, those companies that get good relationships, and they can have OBs. They don't need to buy IBs or buy the cask and turn it into it. They have the relationship there. When they do their own bottlings, normally comes from a warehouse, from one of the brokers, or comes from but they can also do their OB bottling, which
I mean, Mario's ability to find and source casks is phenomenal.
Correct.
It's, yeah, I think.
And actually, we just have the latest shipment. I think I was going to confirm it was called on sailing date, and there's some pretty epic stuff coming in here.
The 15th anniversary of the nectar.
Yeah, 15th anniversary of the nectar of the daily drams. There's some pretty epic stuff.
Some very good stuff. There's a couple I'm looking forward to in there.
Yeah.
I've done a fun story of them. One year at Whiskey Like Paris, and Mario from the Nectar is known as, his nickname is Champagne Mario. And between him and I was with him, with John Glazer from Compass Box, Sukinda, and a few others, and it was a night of one-upmanship by the whole lot, and everyone was just trying to do something bigger and do something bigger. And it was a small, tiny bar, and we'd sold them out of champagne, and sort of drunk all the Ruinart, drunk all the Dom Perignon, drunk all the Cristal, and I'm sort of stuck of ideas of what to buy. And Mario's looking at one side and looking at the wine list and talking to the sommelier, and John Glazer's looking at the whiskey selection. And he decided to buy everyone a glass of Spice Tree, and get everyone a glass of his whiskey. And everyone was just being handed a glass at that point, and Mario just turns around the corner with a bottle of 1990 Chem, and just went, "Oh, I've got a Chem." I was like, "Shit!" I was like, "All right." So escalated that night quite heavily.
Yes, awesome. I gotta. Let's open this one here. Hang on.
Oh, open the hatch.
Open the hatch. Let's change this one to this one. That's Mario pouring champagne. Yeah, we had big nights with champagne with Mario, and that was a 6-liter Deutz or Dutz. That's Mario with a champagne. 6 liter, bigger than him.
It's the only whiskey show I've ever done where there's been a staff room that the main priority is it has a fridge full of Becks at all times.
Yeah, really. This is very. Let's do a recap of all what we tasted today, Jonathan.
Yeah, absolutely.
Still really bright, huh? Has held up.
Super duper bright, and that creaminess someone was speaking of is prevalent there as well. It's like it really continues to stand up, and I think a testament to any amazing distillery like Old Pulteney's range is that their drams do keep standing up and give something a little bit different at the various iterations.
15. Very nice. I might stick now with the nose of the 12.
Yeah. Jumping to the 18 for me, this is one of the noses that I've loved to go back to a lot as like almost a mother, because I feel like it's really, really good as
the palate of the
15. In
15.
between.
But
This 18 continues to be like crushed nuts, cashews, and also have a lot of the like citrus notes as well as the early ones, and like it's developing, it's getting to that sort of more rich, darker sort of broth that we're getting with the last couple of drams.
Loving the 18.
I'm loving the 18 as well.
Loving the 18. So again, this is a great 18-year-old to have something different at home. I would say this will be one of the most savory drams official bottlings that there is, actually.
And look, I think, I mean, like we said it with like the correlation with kind of like the Bunnahabhain 18 as well. When you jump from that 15 to 18 or that 12 to 18, you want a decipherable difference.
Yeah.
And it gives it. It really does. It's got its great spot in the range there.
and 25.
Talking about savory, Jose, there's not many sherry whiskeys that involve sherry that you can say are savory, because we associate sherry with often something sweeter. This is the interaction of sherry with this distillate being savory is so unique.
Yeah, that's the thing is the sherry gives a lot of sherry also contains itself a lot of sugar, which it doesn't. Oloroso and Amontillado have sugars, but they are not sweet sugars. They're like they just keep mouthfeel, but that mouthfeel doesn't make you feel that's salt that much. Well, actually, I was rethinking that. Actually, Amontillados are quite salty when you taste Amontillados. Yeah,
it's one thing that winds me up quite a lot in terms of that sort of sherry association. I studied wine before moving to whiskey and have a huge love for sherry and their wines, and proper Oloroso, proper Amontillado, proper Palo Cortado, it's dry sherry. It may have that sort of dried fruit nutty character, but it's a dry wine. There's nothing sweet about it whatsoever, and it's only seasoned casks that are far less focused on the quality of wine that comes out of it at the end, where you're actually looking at seasoning on a style where there's a lot more sweetness, and if you then feel wet, even more so. But yeah, it's proper sherry casks give you that dry savory style of whiskey. Chuck it in a big oily PX cask, of course you're going to get sweetness, but I think sherry used well, and I don't want to say properly because it's unfair on others, but if you use it in that sort of approach,
it's a great example of what you said, used well. I think,
yeah,
letting the spirit of the distillery shine, and before we kick on with the 2583, the last three whiskeys on the review. Next week's tasting is sold out.
Yes,
sold out.
The Climbing the Nevis, the Ben Nevis tasting.
Ben Nevis tasting is gone. Like Old Pulteney was sold out, and we got.
They're selling out quickly, all these tastings, and for good reason. Like, what opportunity do we really normally get to taste the caliber of these whiskeys that we're trying to?
6 whiskeys for around $100 is not bad, huh?
Yeah, and next week. So the Ben Nevis tasting is all sold out, unfortunately, but we're looking forward to.
But the following week, we just released a Glenlivet tasting, and let's just put the draw card on top of that. This go like it's like the joke. You go like
it's going to be a sensational tasting, and probably the most crazy dram we've tried in a while is going to be the 42-year-old 1973. Oh, it's just
there.
42-year-old 1973 single cask, obviously.
1973 Cairnhead's Glenlivet. So this will be the start of the night, but also we will be tasting the 25-year-old Glenlivet.
We'll be tasting the 25-year-old, the 18-year-old.
A couple of single casks.
Perth cask, the Western Australian cask. The Moorish cask, the Nadura, and a 13-year-old single cask as well.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a cracking tasting, Jose. And might I say that for $70 for a 15 ml pack,
that's pretty good.
That's amazing.
And 60. I don't do maths.
Today is 60. What's it called? 75 minus 10%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
63 or 70.
63.50. 25. 63.25.
So to try it as
1973
year-old whiskey for that price. I think if you were to get this nip at a bar, you'd be paying about 150. It's just
awesome, for the nip.
It's an awesome dram. So that's going to be a sensational tasting. Don't sleep on it because it's going to sell out like the other ones as well. And I think for the price, and we're doing a fair few tastings at the moment, just bang, 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 because of the situations. We don't want to use the C word or LD words too much.
LD,
COVID and lockdown. It's all happening everywhere. So like
in my house, C word is different. We're like, we don't have a big one.
We have to say the F word, not the C words.
Yes. So Glenlivet tasting, and again another underrated distillery, but we got 4 single casks. So that's most of people, judge by very budget official bottlings.
Mm-hmm.
We have a few official bottlings which are single cask, which just highlights a lot of the quality of the spirit. And then after that, there's only maybe 5 tickets left. for the artist,
Oh, the artist.
the
Yeah.
artist's tasting, which might be sold out by now. I haven't checked the sales, but
Mm.
we are tasting one Caperdonic and one Imperial.
Imperial. Yes.
So
and
two
they're
dead
stunning.
distilleries, you don't get to taste these whiskeys, like they are gone, no more. Like it's impossible. And this is like in one tasting two dead distilleries like Caperdonic and Imperial, which are the future Glenmore and
Port
you know,
Ellens
not Port Ellens that level, but it's like Port, you know, your Glenuggies, you know, those kind of styles that you know disappear a lot further back than
Yeah.
Imperial and Caperdonic.
Those ones have been Renez and Amarillo, some sensational whiskies.
And the Sullivan's Go.
That's gonna
big drop. The Sullivan's Go.
That's gonna go. That's gonna go absolutely.
It'll probably be sold out by the
That's
weekend.
fast. The Amarillo Sullivan's Go, Buddha Harbin as well, which will be sensational too.
Yeah.
So those two in the pipelines, and then for all the dads out there, Jose.
If you want to share a dram with Dad on Father's Day, we got a tasting for you.
Father's Day, Great Aussie Spirits tasting. So we've got King Lake Distillery. We're trying their awesome O'Grady's stand.
It's an Australian spirits showdown that Jono has put together.
If you haven't tried this O'Grady's from King Lake Distillery, it's sensational. These guys are like an off the grid sort of distillery, and it's bloody awesome. You got to try it. And then our mate Dave from Launceston Distillery will be joining us as well. We'll have a little bit of a nudge at one of his bourbon casks down there, as well as some new Aussie rum, cheeky little Aussie honey liqueur, a beer too because it's Father's Day, a little hoppy porter, and a rum as well from the Mason to Whiskey. They're Australia from Beanley. So
I'm not sure if any of you, well, a few of you, these guys were last year's Father's Day tasting. You know, it's going to be something similar. We're going to end up quite late at night and having a few drams with dads in lockdown.
Starts in the afternoon. Last year it was like we were
2
very
a.m.
sort
or
of
something like that.
into the COVID sort of thing.
Yeah.
And we just had an absolute afternoon of it. So there's a lot of booze in the tasting. All the samples are 30 mils. There's a beer. There's some stuff to make a longer drink there.
We're mixing whiskey with rum, with beer, like, you know, it's like any dad should do.
It's going to be a good, fun tasting.
Or during lockdown.
Grab one for
we
yourself.
Should send some Prosecco.
If you're a dad, or for your dad, if it's the sort of thing you'd be interested in, or if you give off dad vibes, or to do it with your dad, or if you just like dad jokes, just grab a pack. You know, it's just a tasting. Let's get into it.
Or if you want to be a dad, also, you know, why not?
Better one day.
So that's another tasting, and we're working on a few more coming up, but we yet to disclose until we get everything signed off for September. And now let's move on to 25. Yeah, we need to learn the last 3 drams. Then also 25 is something else, exceptional. I need a little bit more.
I don't know if there is that much more left in there, Jose.
Owen took everything.
Running with the drakes there.
Yeah. They this is it just smells like old whiskey in a, you know, as a compliment, like really nice, like old style whiskey, like very fruity, fragrant, and
I mean, like it's got that musk to it, and then underneath it, it's just got like bouquets of.
But it's all married together. Like it's like, you know, it's like it's not one note, but it all smells like one thing. Just fruit and complex, harmonious. Yeah, totally.
It's like, it's absolutely sensational.
It's a dangerous dram at 46%. Like you nail half a bottle in a sitting with not even blink of an eye.
Absolutely.
We got only maybe 2 bottles of these. I think there's 2 bottles of these online, maybe 3. I don't know how many we put on. I think maybe it's only 2 because I'm keeping 1. Actually, very beautiful. As a good gift for dad, if you have if you like that much, you know.
That was a very good gift for Dad.
Yeah, very good gift for Dad. You know, I would have given this to my dad if he was alive. You know, I would love that.
I might have a child if it's if this is what you get.
This is what you get. I might tell Levi, yes, I want what I want for. I'll probably get a pair of jocks. That's the problem with me.
Yeah.
Something my wife won't buy me is whiskey.
Well, what's the better present than a tie on Father's Day?
A voucher for South Melbourne branch.
Letting dad tie one on Father's Day.
Rob nods with a head. Yeah. 1983. That's giving now a lot more Christmas pudding, and it's all a lot more floral. It lost a little bit for me the nutty sherry and slightly those sort of bourbon fruits or bourbon cask fruits that, you know, like the 25 come out.
It really softens over time, that one.
Yeah. This is a whiskey. The 83 is a whiskey to sit on a good half an hour just nosing it.
I'm jealous, that's for sure.
Yeah. John Jankowski, I see you nodding there. What do you reckon? You're loving this, are you?
Yeah, this is probably the dram that it's a gift that keeps on giving. Like the nose on this, there's Owen made a real good call about this one before. Pretty much whatever note that you can possibly think of and throw at this thing, it's got it in there over time. It evolves and does stuff, and it just opens right up and just becomes whatever you want it to be. It's in there. It's really an exquisite dram. I've been really, really impressed with this one. And I dare say it's my pick of the night. That's for sure. Yeah, I'm going to say this is my pick of the night. Like, it's one that I'm taking the most amount of time on because I'm going to be a sad bloke once this glass is finished. I'm probably even then going to be nosing the empty glass.
It was game over when we pulled this one around, I think. It was not fair for the rest, but this would have been cast selection, very, very tiny compared even to the 25. Like what's not to like, you know? It's very, very.
Probably a question for Andy. How many casks will go into the 25 batch?
Undisclosed. So I would put it into perspective. Each year in Australia, we get somewhere between 6 to 10 3-bottle cases in the year. So obviously we're a smaller proportion of the market than other countries. I'd say the UK is probably getting 10 times that. And you know, add in the rest of Asia and you've doubled that again. So a few casks, I'd say.
Around 5,000, 6,000 bottles, or something like that.
I think so, yeah.
Paul Leyland,
give you a bit of degree to balance out stuff even at that level. So you got to have something that's a single cask and really going to stand out.
Yeah.
Paul Leyland there in his unfinished home, like the 25. You want us to give you a hand with the plaster there, man? Like we can do a fundraiser. We can do a tasting for finishing Paul Leyland's house.
Yeah,
Go fund me for Paul Leyland's. Get a sheet of plaster there, and you know, you're big. You can put it on yourself. I reckon you probably have plenty of tools down there. You're mute. I can't hear you. No.
No, probably a mic that isn't working, but I know you're saying
we just
beautiful things.
I know he's loving it. Maybe it's us. We don't know. My computer always says speakers high definition. No, we should be all right this time.
Should we jump to the Old Pulteney?
We'll spend the night arguing if it's Paul or a deep fake, says Sean. Yeah, it could be an impersonator, like Donald Trump has like half a dozen of them, or Tom Cruise. There's a few more too. The artist collective now it's starting to deliver a little bit of sulfur and rich, and you know, and umami starts to show, and that typical that beef stock that we saw on the rest, a bit of Vegemite.
Oh, definitely. That's salinity coming through on the palate. Vegemite with that umami-ness, it's decadent. It's a gorgeous strain. You can see why LMDW would have gone for this particular release. It's a cracking dram, and in many ways showcases probably without being up there at the same sort of level, it showcases the class of the 25-year-old along with the sort of the power of the single cask.
Yeah, it's a big 12-year-old. Now the palate is coming back and it's like rich, if you put it against the regular 12 one. There are good valid options as side by side. Yeah. Very, very yummy. Who likes the artist? Can any hands? Owen, of course. Yeah, we got Shan there. John Tchaikovsky too. Yeah, good. Alex loves it too. Yeah, good.
Oh, you mean like it the most, or just like?
No, we like it, like as a drink, as a whiskey. No, I wouldn't say.
Are there any that anyone dislike? No,
anyone dislikes it, or it's a funny? No, not good.
Actually, no, none of them are bad. That's the strength of the lineup, I think.
You know what? He kicked the nail on the Alex. Kick the nail on the head. I think none of these ones have been like, nah, it's gone, no more. None of them have become,
No.
It shows very consistent, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah, there's no weaknesses in it. They're all pretty strong. I mean, they've all got different characteristics and qualities that you like, but it's a very, very, very strong lineup. And I think that's testament to the
I think it's always a joy to go back to those younger styles or younger ages and still be happy with that as a whiskey. I think we often do tastings where you're going up with age and up with price, and getting more and more premium, and it's gutting when you then turn back to the original and go, that's pretty flat.
You don't want to go back. Yeah, correct.
You want to finish them bit by bit so that you're not having that feeling, but it's always special when you can return back, and the two different 12-year-olds I think are really interesting side by side. I think it's very different in style, but there's a link somewhat there in the same vein. So that's a pleasure.
And also, like, it's amazing. Look, the difference in price is pretty big between the 12-year-olds, even though the IB it's a smaller batting, but puts it in perspective how underrated or underpriced is Old Pulteney, and where probably the Pulteney 12-year-old should be when you look at what a barrel of Old Pulteney on the secondary market would worth, because they will be purchased from La Maison through signatory vintage at market price pretty much, or just a little bit below market price. There's an inflection point on prices of IBs, right? So there is a part when IBs are more expensive than OBs in the younger parts, and on the older ones, the IBs are a lot cheaper than OBs. And that inflection point is probably, where the brand kind of subsidizes the younger SKUs, like this. That the price of Old Pulteney, probably market price, should be closer to the 150 price point than what it is just on $100. Because I think they used to be probably like 5-6 years ago, this used to be like $80, and now it's like $100. So it's not really much increase in that amount of time.
No, and it's just that race to the bottom,
But no race to the bottom, but IBs just continue going up because it's just basically market price, and all is on brokerage.
Yeah, well, I mean, it is a race to the bottom for the entry level for everyone.
Correct. For everyone else, yeah. There's no race to the bottom. You gotta keep your brand, because otherwise, you cannot be off the market.
Race to the bottom is not the most accurate word. Like we're not dealing with like 2-minute noodles or spaghetti or like home brand milk. There's a lot more complexity to it, but at the end of the day, it's like
I don't know. There's a fair bit of that 2-minute noodle notes that we're getting through on some of these as well. Yeah.
Yeah, give me this on top of any other 2 million noodles though.
That's true.
Yeah.
We just need to invest in Maggie and just kind of, just refill the bottles when we're done.
Yeah. Oh, you put
fine.
this on this. Put this on the master stock. A bit of pudding on the master stock would it be?
A Maggi beef noodle cask finish.
Or just every time you buy one of those like big like 10-pack things of Maggie noodles, you just get a free bottle of Pulteney 15 with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could be a good
I'm
luck.
still upset they got rid of chicken and corn.
Rob for
Yeah,
president.
Chicken and corn.
Devastated. They got rid of chicken and corn. It's the worst tragedy of 2020, in my opinion.
I remember the first
noodles.
time I saw noodles in New Zealand that said they had real shrimp. That was the
Really?
seafood ones. Yeah, and they were the home brand ones. They were like 99 cents a pop. I was 26 and I was working vintage there, so I lived on that for. You can live on noodles. Trust me, for 4 months. You can. It's true. You can, and you don't put weight on.
Real shrimp.
Real
What
shrimp,
did they
yeah.
come out like? Once you warmed them up.
It's better. That's
4 months. Were you ever a university student? 4 months, please. Years you can live on noodles.
Well, you don't work with a university student. I'm talking about like putting 12-hour work and live on it. The university. Sorry, some university students work, but not like you 12 hours work and like proper work, little sleep, a bit of dancing, and 2 million noodles. And Justin, our mate, just joined. Justin, we were asking for you today, and suddenly you disappeared. Do you get to taste all of them?
Sorry, I was dealing with a COVID crisis at work, believe it or not. Yeah, it's all good. I was actually tasting in the background, so
good.
Some pretty stellar stuff there.
Yeah.
Pick of the bunch.
Hopefully fight off the COVID.
Yeah.
That 83 is pretty good.
Well, we don't have that one, but you can buy the 25, and I reckon the queue's covered. If you whatever you need to, you sprinkle it like a.
You can get it on the company card. And
like a shaman.
Work expense.
Well, let's be honest. The amount of booze we've all consumed in the past 18 months, ain't none of us getting COVID.
Or at least don't fear COVID with that amount of booze. Like, yeah. This has been very, very solid. And you want to wrap up? Any questions to Andy that now we're having here?
I think I'm good. Pretty awesome tasting, and thank you for letting us taste the 83. It's absolutely sensational.
Oh, it's made even more special by the fact that unless there's some kicking around hidden in the back of a shop somewhere, this is the very last bottle from our warehouse. So that's was the very last one to leave us. So it's good to share it with you all and actually see it properly departed.
We thank you, Andy, for this bottle. Yeah, it was very meaningful that you let us, and it was very well used, as you probably seen, and that's the way we like to use these limited edition things, to be open, shared, but also explain with a background and education, and like putting it on place
exactly with the rest of the drams from the distillery.
So,
what better way to champion it?
And we're very happy to be able to open it. Like I was like over the moon. So thanks, man. Thanks for joining. Thanks for the chat. We look forward to do more tastings with you. You got a great portfolio there. I was looking at we want to organize a bourbon tasting, and there's some E.H. Taylors there, very interesting E.H. Taylors, and we might have a chat over this week to do some interesting tastings, maybe a bourbon tasting coming up. So thanks for joining. Thank you, everyone. If I was just reading.
Actually, before this gets wrapped up, I'm curious with everybody tonight. Has anyone added any water to their drams tonight? And if so, has it improved it? I'm seeing a lot of people just shaking their heads.
We're all 46.
None of it.
Oh man, these drams did not need water.
They're 46.
Didn't even think of it. Didn't even cross my mind.
Yeah, it didn't cross my mind at all.
And
I think, as you say, they're all 46. So it doesn't for most of us here in the room, it doesn't require it. It's now intrigued me because it's not something I really have ever done with this range that frequently. So I'm now intrigued to see what benefits or hindrances come from that, and whether that actually will, bring out new flavors and new styles, or whether that will mute them and bring them backwards. So it's tomorrow's project. It's exciting.
Andrew, all I'm hearing is you need to source another 83 bottles so that we can do this again, and everyone
We can put a little bit of water in.
Yeah.
I don't think my company card limit goes that far, unfortunately.
Well, if you can get it, we can pay for it. If you can get it, we can pay for it. No problem. We don't want discount. I said it applies for both sides. We don't give discounts, but we don't ask for discounts. If you can get it, we pay for it. You just let me know how much it is, and we organize a tasting. This group, we are professionals at that.
I speak to them because I think there's every now and then there's a fair amount of things that kick around in Asia and in various warehouses that is just unused. And I was this close to getting some 1990 Pulteneys. And we were working with them, and as soon as we then started asking about pricing, they obviously went to the UK and said, can you confirm what the pricing will be for this? As soon as they all found out, they just went, no, you can't have that. And God knows what I think they've probably gone back into archive, because I think there was only 3 bottles. It was this close to just sort of stealing things from various warehouses across Asia, and then got caught out, unfortunately.
Sometimes the upside, you gotta show the upside of the activation, right? It's but we pay for it, we buy it. For us, it's about like finding it. We share the cost, all of it.
This is very, very amazing way to do it. Very senior way to do it, and you probably wouldn't get the opportunity to do it.
And we all enjoy it, and we, so
stunning, incredible distillery. And I feel like one that now I'm going to really keep an eye out for. Everything Old Pulteney wise, absolutely cracking tasting, and what a distillery. Really, really good.
And as you said, the IBs as well, I can't advocate them highly enough. I think it's always really good to see, occasionally you see a disparity between OB and IB, but it's the quality of liquid that comes out from, I think there's been 1 or 2 where I've not been overwhelmed, but on the whole, it's been superb liquid across the range.
There's never been a lot of Pulteney out there. Historically, it's just pretty much Gordon and MacPhail that's been putting Old Pulteney for ages, and that's about it. Then we got a few here and there, bottlers with a little bit, but it's one of these distilleries that there's not really a lot available out there. Well, this was good.
Such a good tasting. And does anyone have any final questions for Andy or
before we wrap up?
Before we jump out?
Not so much a question, more of a statement.